Good morning, guys. I'm taking some video maybe just for catharsis because I'm so angry, like so angry that I'm on the verge of tears kind of anger, I feel like. So I just want to tell you guys what happened. So the unload is just as bad on this same load as the load in was. And apparently that's typical, and anybody, I am going to tell you, anyone who hears this is going to be like, oh yeah, it's a Cisco load with lumpers, okay? For those of you who don't know, lumpers are like scab labor that union companies, as I understand it, someone's going to correct me in the comments probably, and I know who probably will. Lumpers are people that get paid to unload trailers, and as I think it works, it's companies that are otherwise union, but they get to pay less money to lumpers, and the trucking company pays the company itself. So this is a Cisco facility. And I don't care if I'm not supposed to say that kind of stuff because that's gross. But anyway, they gave me a super difficult door to get into. After they told me, I seriously gasped when she told me it was going to be 5 to 6 hours to unload. So I sat for 6.5 hours yesterday. I'm going to be sitting for 6 hours today. I'm not going to be able to drive, and I'm not going to be able to collect detention, in part because the appointment time was set for 7:30, which I could not have gotten here at that time because I told them this load-in took 6 hours. I gave my people an updated ETA yesterday and to 10 a.m. and apparently they called these guys and said she can't get there till 10 a.m. with this load, and they said that's fine, we need it, get it here as soon as we can. By the way, the guy I dealt with this in this office was such an cut me off, wouldn't let me finish talking, just an absolute piece of work, man. Wow, what a jerk. That was really frustrating, and fortunately guys like that are the exception. Most of the receivers and shippers that I deal with are fine. You know, sometimes they're a little gruff, but this guy was a real jerk, young guy. Anyway, I'm trying hard not to swear on my channel, and it takes more effort on a day like today because I am livid, and I'm just doing my best to calm down. But I have 5 to 6 hours for job searching. So these guys want to send me to places like this where I can't make a living, especially after I just hit 6 months, and technically that puts me at like 2 cents a mile higher, but I think they're already doing that thing where they just throttle you then. So they just limit the number of hours that you have to drive. They'll send you to a place like this. And you know what? Maybe I'm looking into it a little too far, and it's actually just that this is the freight that they have available. That's probably a more likely scenario, but I'm mad. So I'm just gonna go for the villain theory. These guys are trying to screw their drivers because they don't want them to make money. I mean, they really don't. They don't want to pay us any more than they absolutely have to, because that's the way larger trucking companies operate. That is their absolute MO. So I'm not going to be able to drive today for the most part, most of the day, and I'm very disappointed about that. And I guess I'm going to put out some applications today because this isn't a tenable situation. And fortunately, this hasn't been the norm, but if they're going to start doing things like this, it's not acceptable. And I just can't even believe that they would send you to two places like back to back that would take up 2 full days that you can't drive. I don't get it. I'm editing and this part seemed unclear to me. The reason why it was 6 hours to unload is because they had to make me a work-in because I didn't make the originally scheduled appointment time, which would not have been possible to make based on the fact that it was a 6 to 8 hour load-in time at the pickup. And as I stated in my previous video, there were other drivers showing up at that pickup after me who had been told by people at our company that it would take them an hour to get loaded. And when I was on my way there and called after finding the number because my company didn't have it and was asking me for it because they don't know how to Google things, I was told immediately that the average wait time for loads is 6 to 8 hours. So the long story short of that, if you're not following, you probably are, but just in case, our planners set up this job in a way that made it impossible for me to arrive on time, thereby making it impossible for me to claim detention pay. Tell me that's an accident. I don't know. Oh, and if you show up on time, then you get unloaded all at once, but they put you as a work-in if you don't show up for your appointment time, which means they unload other drivers that show up before and after you before they finish unloading your trailer, and they unload you piecemeal. So I watched many drivers come and go, getting unloaded with relative quickness, and I sat for 6 hours. And yeah, I started to say, I think I interrupted myself. They gave me a really difficult door to back into. Would have been easy with a day cab probably, or not easy, but easier. It was underneath like an awning kind of thing, or like one of those sort of catwalks between buildings, and there was a wall, so there's a wall facing me with a yellow guardrail, and I rubbed against both trailers on either side that I had to back into at different points during this multiple attempts to back in, because it was just too tight it was really, really hard to avoid it. It was like playing Operation with a freaking 53-foot trailer. And I got lots of and then the other thing was, it was real frustrating because there's so much traffic, so I kept having to interrupt myself while I was backing, and then I started to get it in finally, and guys, I hadn't opened my trailer doors because I was so focused on trying to get in there. So this is one of those places, just like the pickup, where they have you back your trailer in and unhook and go wait in another lot. So I'm just sitting here. I'm really angry. I'm trying really hard to just take deep breaths, because this is just one of those bad days. This is a couple of bad days in a row of trucking. I had a better week last week. This video where I went to Pennsylvania, things went smoother. I had a good trip. I got to enjoy a longer drive and actually make a little bit of money. And this week I'm not going to be able to make money, and that's just the way they set it up for me. So I did put in a call asking to talk to my fleet manager. She has the nice, inexperienced guy that is calling on her behalf, but I told him I need to talk to her. So I'm going to let her know, like, I'm infuriated by this situation. I'm very nonplussed. I don't even think that's the right word. I'm enraged. I'm not going to say that to her, but I'm going to say I'm very upset at losing 2 days of driving in a row, and I need miles this week. Please send me to Pennsylvania again. That's fine. Send me somewhere far away so I can actually drive and get some miles. I need to make up for losing 2 almost full days of driving. I am really disgusted. When I talk about being throttled, guys, I don't think I'm that far off, because ever since like the end of like the middle of last week, and this has been a decrease, I've been barely able to get 300 miles a day. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's not cool. That's really bad. I didn't get hired to sit in a cab and twiddle my thumbs. I got hired to drive the truck. So if you guys don't want to pay me to drive a truck, then I'll find somebody who does, because I'm worth more than that. I am a good employee, and you guys suck for not seeing it, man. All right, let's go job search. Walking back to the truck, and just to give you a little end of day, just got my bills. Had to deal with a lumper payment. And this was Capstone Logistics, so any of you guys who have dealt with them know exactly what kind of thing this was. I'm working at it. And 6 hours of my drive time today, potential drive time gone. And then they're sending me to Chicago for the next pickup, and they think I'm gonna make it to Menasha, Wisconsin from the west side of Chicago, and boy are they mistaken. Good times. Hey guys, just a little end of day video to sort of complete the circle. Wow, I don't even know where to start. Let me just give you the lowdown on my day today. So it was actually, for the most part, it was a really smooth day. The first place that I stopped was a place I've been to a bunch of times, and I had to drop off a load of scrap. And the thing though that was challenging today, and I really wish I had taken some video, is that I've been in Wisconsin for most of the day, kind of in the Milwaukee area, and because of the ice and snow, and because I've been dealing with heavier loads, which I was glad to have heavier loads. It's always nicer to travel with them in wintry weather, but or at least it has been. Anyway, coupling and uncoupling from trailers was a little trickier today, as was sliding tandems, which those of you who drive understand exactly why. I don't have to explain it. It's funny how having heavy loads is nice when it comes to the driving portion of things, as long as you have your stuff balanced out correctly, you have your tandems positioned in the right place. I want to talk about that in another video for newer drivers, because I think it's something that's so important to like enjoying your drive more, and just obviously the safety of your, you know, moving your vehicle is the first point, but it also makes driving less annoying. But anyway, the first place I had to go to, I had to slide my tandems back, and the lot was really icy. It was in the morning. That's why it was like, I think I got there around 8 a.m., a little before 8. The salt truck guy was just getting there like after I got there. and it's like hilly in there, and I had to slide my tandems, and at first I couldn't in the spot that I was in because my wheels are spinning, because that load was like 42,000 pounds or something like that. So I'm trying to go forward to get the tandems all the way back to drop that trailer for them to unload, and I can't. My wheels are just spinning because I can't get any traction. So I pulled forward up this little hill so I could get on a drier, straighter, like flatter plane of asphalt so I could make the adjustment. And then some guy comes over and takes the spot I was trying to back into, and I was like, man. So I had to go around and do it again. Whatever, that wasn't the end of the world. It was a little frustrating. And then the next spot that I went to is another place I had been to before, and it's not too bad. The people are really nice, but when you leave through there, there's this super narrow, it's like an alley that you have to, that is like all trucks that are parked on angles going like toward each other, and you have to get through there, and some people actually have to back into those spots, and it's if you looked at it, you'd be like, how? Thank goodness I didn't have to deal with that today. But I had to connect to a trailer that was loaded even heavier. This one was, I remember it was a weird number, it was 44,440 pounds. I think it was like a bunch of fours. So it was a heavy ass load, you know? So when I first approached the trailer and backed up to it, the nose of the trailer was too low. I could tell right away it was too low for me to get under it. So I had to crank up the nose, which if you might already know this if you're a driver, but cranking up the nose of a heavy trailer, like a heavily loaded trailer, is like, takes a little, you know, elbow grease, as they say. Well, this was like, the landing gear was kind of frozen and rusty. So it took a lot of elbow grease and some core power and some freaking biceps, and like I got my workout in just doing that. I was like huffing and puffing, and the reason why was I wasn't able to crank it up in high gear. I had to do it in low gear, which takes a long time, and I tried to do it in high gear and it would not budge. So I had to do it in low gear, and it took a while to just inch the nose of the trailer up, and I finally got it up just high enough to get underneath it. So, and then per my recent videos, when I was coupling with it, I was having the hardest time being able to tell that it was coupled correctly. And this was kind of weird. I didn't take video or anything, but the handle of the release arm was completely in and totally flush. And I kept looking at it, but there was this teeny band of silver, like minuscule, up against the fifth wheel. And I was like, is this coupled correctly? And there was another driver there who was definitely a more experienced driver, and I asked him to take a look at it for me. I was like, I need another set of eyes on this. He's like, yeah, you're fine. So it ended up being fine. So I don't know why that was. That was kind of weird. I mean, it was seriously a minuscule amount of silver that I could see, but it still made me a little bit nervous. I was like, I was hitting on it with the hammer. I was like, it's in all the way. The locking jaws are locked. So it was weird. But that wasn't the kicker. That was all good. I love that kind of stuff. I like a little struggle. You guys know I'm weird like that. No, I get to this unload. I do the unload guy there. There's one guy there that's really gruff and kind of not that nice. And then another guy that's super nice and friendly, and that was cool. So as I'm getting ready to, I think they're about halfway unloading me, and I send them a message saying, hey, I'm about ready to get out of here, but I didn't see another load yet. The load comes through, and guess what it is? It's that same one I just did where I sat for 6 hours on the load and the unload. And I was like, I felt an immediate stress, anxiety response. Like my blood pressure must have gone up a couple of ticks. My head started to hurt right away, or not hurt, but feel like this spinny feeling that I get in my head when I get really anxious all of a sudden. I was angry. And it was because I was like, I am going to have to quit my job today. And I don't want to quit my job. I'm not ready to do that. I do want to leave this job at some point, but I want to do it in a good way, on good terms, with notice and all that stuff. I don't want to just be like, okay, I'm done. My fleet manager had just gone on lunch when this happened. I called and spoke with a different fleet manager and told her, I am not accepting this load. And I explained the whole situation, and she was pretty sympathetic, and that was really appreciated. And then I spoke with the other fleet manager who's the trainee, and he's a real sweet guy. He seems like a younger guy. He's not jaded yet. He will be. Give him time. And I explained the whole thing to him. And I'm always I never like yell at anybody. I'm always really respectful about it. I can be a little bit abrasive when I'm upset about something, but this time I certainly wasn't. I was just explaining. I was very cut and dried. I'm like, I am not accepting this load under any circumstances. Like, in that if I have to leave this job to do that, then that's what's going to happen. And I'm very sorry. I don't want to give ultimatums. I don't want to like leave this job, but I'm not doing that load. He's like, okay. And he's kind of flustered. It's kind of cute because he's new, you know, he's inexperienced. I feel bad putting him in that position. So he comes back to me, calls me, and he says, okay, well, we're going to route you here. And then he says, and then we're going to have you relay this to my terminal where my car is parked. Basically, like they're calling your bluff, which is not a bluff at all. The planners, he emailed the planners and they got back and said, okay, let her quit then. I was like, okay, I guess that's what's happening. And I was really bummed. I was like, I don't want to do this. You know, I don't want to quit, but I'm not doing this load. I don't care. I'm not going to be treated like that. I'm not going to spend hours and hours after I already did this week, after that ate 2 days out of my pay. I'm not doing it again. Like, well, I would be crazy to let them treat me like that, you know? I got on the road, headed toward the place I was told to head to. And then he called me back a little while later and he's like, okay, we got you on a different load. I was like, yes. I was like hitting the steering wheel like, yes, when I got off the phone, because apparently they were bluffing. I don't know, but you know what? It felt good to stand up for myself. It still didn't feel good though overall, because I know I'm not the first driver to refuse a load. I'm a newbie still, you know, guys. I'm 1 year into it. As of this week, basically marks a year since I started driving. I think it was March 9th of last year that I actually started driving, even though I already had my CDL, but I didn't do anything with it for a couple of months while I was still bartending and getting up the gumption to start. That was a really stressful experience today, but we got through it, and I don't know what's going to happen. I haven't talked with my fleet manager yet, but I'm going to talk with her hopefully sometime tomorrow and tell her, like, I'm sorry it came to that, but I was ready to leave this job because I don't need to explain. You already know why. So 1 point for me, 0 points for these guys. Just kidding. They still have a ton of points because they're making a lot of money off of my labor and I'm making a lot less than I should. And that's reality, because that's trucking, like I always say. So like my dad says, and now I say. So we're going to call it a little win for the day, to have stood up for myself and, you know, not trying to create a combative type of energy with my company, or not trying to be that employee that doesn't want to do their job. It's not that, and they know that, I think. But this is the kind of thing that when you work for a company and they try to push you around, sometimes you have to push back. And if it is the kind of thing that's not going to work out, you have to walk away. Because I can get a job in lots of places. I have a good driving record. I'm a solid employee. I'm dependable. So, you know what? That's the way it goes sometimes. So that's the end of my saga. Thank you so much for watching. I will catch you on the next one.